Greetings Envoys, Ghost here, this time talking about the Avowed Anniversary Update. I fully completed Avowed when it came out, amassing around 180 hours across 3 different playthroughs. I followed the game's progress through its patches, and now I've loaded one of my late game saves to test the real impact of this update. So, how does it feel to play Avowed after this anniversary update? Let's start by saying that this is a mechanics update, not a content one. We don't have additional quests or an expanded storyline. It's mostly combat oriented. So, if you already played the game and are looking for more narrative content, this is not what you're looking for. The first big introduction of the anniversary update is New Game Plus. To access it, you have to load the save just before the endgame, which for me was only seconds away, complete the ending again, and then choose to start a New Game Plus campaign. You can either create a new character or continue with your old one. You restart the game from level 1, but you keep all your attribute increases and ability points from your previous run. All common equipment and consumables are removed, but you retain your unique items, reset to their lower tier, both in your active equipment and in your stash. Godlike abilities are reset as well, since they are tied to main story progression. This means you can continue leveling and keep adding points to your previous build. In the footage you see, I was max level at the end of my original run, level 30, and when leveling up in New Game Plus, I continue building my character's power. The attribute cap has been raised from 15 to 30, and do not forget that previous patches already added more attribute and perk points throughout progression. Beyond that, New Game Plus makes enemies beefier. Not only do their stats and hit points increase, but some of them gain random modifiers to increase variety. These range from elemental traits, such as immunity to fire damage and accumulation, while dealing fire damage themselves, to modifiers like haste, which increases their movement and attack speed while also lowering their cooldowns. God totems and the map's fog of war are also reset, as they are integral to the exploration of a new run. They also added a new weapon, the quarterstaff, along with several new finishers for each weapon type to add variety. The quarterstaff feels very hefty and slow. I can imagine it working as a backup weapon for wizards when they are out of essence. A few workbenches have been added around the world, so you can upgrade your equipment without fast traveling to camp. Personally, I do not see this as a major upgrade, since fast traveling to camp is generally easier and faster than reaching said workbenches. Another strong addition is that enemies can now respawn in major maps, which adds to immersion. Previously, once you cleared an area, it stayed empty, which slightly broke that sense of a living world. I know now people will be commenting around immersion and NPCs not moving around in cities, but for me that was never a big deal for immersion, and I play a lot of Bethesda titles. Anyway, enemies respawning is great because it should also make reaching max level easier. Before, you had to complete absolutely all the content the game had to offer to reach level 30. It was not trivial. The second big addition is the possibility to now play an envoy who is an Omawa, an Orlan, or a dwarf. In my original review, I theorized that restricting the envoy to humans and elves may have been for low reasons, since the Diran Empire was born from the merging of a human and an elven kingdom. However, Obsidian clearly listened to fan requests and added these additional races, so you can play a furry character now. They also added modifiers to better differentiate races and backgrounds. For example, my Omawa envoy now has +2 might for his race, and +2 constitution for being a war hero. It's nice to see races and backgrounds being not just flavor. A mirror has been added at camp, allowing you to change your appearance in-game, including your race. Changing races seem particularly aimed at New Game Plus runs, since a lot of them were not available at launch. A nice detail is that the first-person camera height changes depending on whether you are playing a larger character like an Omawa or a smaller one like an Orlan or a dwarf. Cosmetically, they add new presets and godlike features, reaching a solid number of customization options. That said, I'm not the kind of player who spends an hour crafting cheekbones, so your mileage may vary. The last major addition is the ability to fully customize difficulty by modularly creating your own setup. Beyond adjusting health and damage for your character, companions, and enemies, you can fine-tune aspects such as stagger, stability, and aggro generation. This is especially interesting because, as I mentioned nearly a year ago, enemies tended to focus heavily on the envoy and largely ignore companions, which diminished Kai's role as a tank. Increasing enemy difficulty across these parameters also grants a small boost to experience gained, so if you raise the challenge, you are rewarded by leveling faster. For those interested, photo mode has also been added, allowing you to capture your moments across the living lands. There are a few options to tinker with if you are so inclined. Alongside these major updates, there are various fixes and improvements. The game is also coming to PlayStation 5, making some players happy considering the comments I've been reading around. Finally, the game's price has been lowered to $50 or euros. Permanently, it's not a sale. For a title that sits somewhere between AA and AAA production, this feels more appropriate. Between the mechanical updates and the reduced price, this may be the right moment to jump into Avowed if you were previously on the fence. This update does not radically change the game at all, but adds a lot of quality of life improvements, and the combat felt overall more challenging for a new Game Plus run. A lot of these changes were requested from the community, so they might land in the right space. I was really enjoying smashing things around with the big Omawa envoy. The only slight disappointment was Kai not recognizing my character as such. And this wraps up my personal highlights of what feels like the final major update for Avowed. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoy deep RPG analysis from a full completion perspective, that is exactly what I do here, whether the game is brand new or decades old. There is a lot more coming. If that sounds like your kind of content, consider subscribing so you don't miss it. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.
Nice.